You just make sure everybody's in. Okay, lovely. You ready?
Good. Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Okay, so welcome to my channel. My name's Helen Miller. This is Head to Heart Living, and I am very excited to be joined today by Imogen because our paths go way back. We have been, well, you will explain a little bit about that in a moment, but our lives have intertwined in a loads of really interesting ways. And we're now back together again in working together in a really different context, in a really different way. For the next half an hour, we're going to be talking about how both of us have made choices that are not conventional, that are not necessarily the 2.4 children, university degree career that we are often told we should be living, and how each of us, in our own ways, have where we've gone to in ourselves to be able to make those courageous acts or make those choices. And in order to help you to have tools, techniques, and inspiration, if there's points in your life where you're feeling a call to do something, end something, begin something, create something, and you're feeling that you're stuck in procrastination, or the voices of who am I to, or what will they say are very loud, in order that you can be all that you came here to be, constantly live this one world precious life that we have, and essentially be living without regret. Leave it all on the dance floor, as a friend of mine says. So that's what we're here to do. And at the end, we are going to offer and launch our Summer Sizzler offer because Imogen and I are running a kick-ass retreat in September. So that is a special discount where you can save hundreds of pounds if you stick around to the end. Yeah. So first of all, over to Imogen, babe. Thank you for
Hello,
being here.
Helen. Oh, it's so nice to be here and be with you and have some chat. I was trying to think back actually to when we did meet, and I don't remember a specific day. I just remember you being in my life, which is what I think is um was quite fascinating. Like I just remember your energy and just having you around in my life, probably 15 or so years ago, might even be a little bit longer than
I think it might be long.
that. Um, and we crossed paths so many times in the world of entertainment when we were both on a very different path, working uh, in front of the camera together and off camera and behind camera. And then I remember that you came to me when I was deeply um, inspired by writing, and you recognize that in me because that's what you're really good at. Recognizing um, uh, positive aspects of other people's characters, and you came to me and you asked me to start writing some scripts for you, and then that was, I think, our first collaboration.
That's
Is my memory right?
it's different to mine, but I love it because it's how rarely
Oh,
do we do this. I remember getting when we were both actors and getting you were always as actors we were always looking for well paid, like above minimum wage work that you could was flexible, that wasn't a huge time commitment that you could do to kind of keep the bills paid while you were auditioning between jobs, and it's something that you could pick up and drop and pick up again without the stress of like going off to film or being a play and then coming back and having to start your finances from scratch again. And so we both had this job through a mutual friend of ours, working for a consultancy company, doing their sales and
yes,
their advertising.
yes.
I hated all the jobs.
Oh, me
I
too,
hated
me
all
too.
the jobs I did before I worked on my money story and thought I had to like, do horrendous things for money. That wasn't the most horrendous, but I did do some horrendous things. And you were one of the cool people because they put all the actors together in a completely separate room who did their sales. So we
They
didn't sort of like
segregated us.
tarnish the company. We weren't made to feel particularly welcome. And uh, and that was what you're one of the people who kept me sane doing that job. And
Ditto.
and then I remember further on, like being in a point in my career and being like, I have to create work. Like that's the way to make stuff happen. I'm really exhausted by having like please give me a job and auditioning and then getting big breaks and then it not leading to anything. And so I was like, right, I'm going to create our own work. And I approached you and I approached an amazing director I knew, and the three of us got our hands dirty and all sorts of things. And then you and I made this short film
Yes.
together,
Yes.
which was brilliant. And we got a whole crew and we got fun and we put our money into it. And then we lost touch. And some point after that, we lost touch. Remember being at your 30th with a lot of shots at the bar. And you, and then I was in a I had a big spiritual awakening and my life changed completely. And then I was in a yoga studio in Covent Garden. And I remember turning around like naked, just come out of the shower in the changing rooms, and you there. And it's,
Yes. Yes. I remember that moment.
yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
and then that was when I was aware that your life path had changed. Because we worked together at another company in Holborn after that initial one. I forgot about that
Yes.
one. Uh, yes, we worked together, several companies. We made a film together. And then we found out we were both on spiritual paths. And then we've connected a few times in the lockdowns online. And then we ran a retreat together. And now we're back to run a longer retreat together.
Yes. So many interlinks. The universe
No.
keeps bringing us back together, which is wonderful.
It's very good. It's obviously it's got the plan in store for our collaboration. And I think it's interesting when you change yourself so much, who sticks around and who doesn't. Um, I think it's an interesting people I met in random occasions who were tenuous friends on Facebook suddenly have become very like prominent in my life. And it's like, oh, I'm so curious that like this divine plan plants seeds at
Yeah, and
certain.
it's really interesting because I was kind of thinking through before we came online today about courage, and what it means and the sacrifices that I have had to make. And so many of those sacrifices have been in relationship because of the fact that I am on completely different life paths to what society often deems to be the path that we should take as humans in this lifetime. And yeah, so it's so fascinating that you are one of the relationships that has come back over and over again. Like the universe goes, here we go. Here she is.
So this one, for those of you who are joining us live, thank you so much. And those of you who are catching the replay, about how we've met, and we are going to ask each other a few questions through a mini interview about. These are questions that I want to know Imogen's answers to, so hopefully you're as curious as I am, and vice versa. As we're talking, if you want to put any questions that spring to mind in the chat, please do. And then at the end of our questioning, we're going to answer your questions as much as we can within the time, and then we're going to be talking to you about this retreat offer that we've got popping out. So
Awesome.
over to you, babe.
Well, I think I would love to know, really, because I know vaguely, but I'd really love to know, Helen, what your first big shift moment was, because I know how challenging life was for you for many years, and I wasn't in your world when you first took shift. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that first shift moment was for
Um,
you.
so I had, I was living a very, now I have a lot of language around it, but I was very unconscious about how I was living. I was very unaware, unself-aware. There's a reason I specialize in working with the heart and emotional intelligence because I needed that medicine and I couldn't give it to myself. And then I had a hugely violent, extreme episode happen to me on my 26th birthday, which was really hitting the deck with life. All my trust in everything, including myself, disappeared overnight. And but it was that extreme darkness that led me to have a spiritual awakening, which sounds a bit wanky, but I can't think of a better term, at
Mm.
Glastonbury Festival 2 years later, where I had met a guy on Tinder. I'd always wanted to go to Glastonbury Festival. None of my friends were like into fields or tents, neither was I, but I kind of thought it would be a really great party. It's really into partying. And I'd managed to get a ticket last minute and I arrived and I'd done a lot of drugs in my life. I won't lie about that to cover the pain that I felt as a teenager, but I had never taken anything natural. And so he gave me some magic mushrooms, and I didn't know how many to take, and I lost him, and I ate the whole bag. And then somebody else thought it was really funny that I'd eaten so many, and I was used to chemicals. So I was like, nothing's happened. So I ate another huge bag of mushrooms, and then 3 days later, I was not the same person. And all I can say is that the kind of the darkness and the strain and the weight of life, I felt that everything was a battle, everything was struggle. I looked at other people being happy and I just didn't get how they could be happy. Like everything was like fight or flight from the moment I got out of bed. And I was really in my masculine. I didn't trust my feminine. And I just felt that lift. It didn't stay lifted forever, but for the first time, it felt like I could really breathe. Overnight, my fear of insects and spiders disappeared. I suddenly became really interested in nature. And I remember going around my local supermarket in Waterloo after that experience and just thinking, oh, I'm slowly back to normal now. I'm putting a chicken salad in my basket and then just looking at it like I'd put wood in there and it wasn't food and putting it back and going, that's weird. And I haven't eaten meat since. So
Mm.
it certainly did some shifting and rewiring and opening. And it was a very big portal into then where I sort of ran, going, there's another way to live, there's another way to understand this universe, there's another way to heal, rather than being reliant on pills from doctors and things like that, and prescriptions and talking therapy only. And that began a very deep decade, which I'm just coming out of pursuing that. Yeah, that's how I started.
Mm. It kind of leads into my second question. Can I go for my second question?
Yeah. No.
Because because I think what I see of you now is just this person who is just so hugely positive that what I'd love to know now when the shit hits the fan, when stuff when you meet challenges in your life now, how is it that you stay on top? Like what are your go-tos? And obviously you're not guzzling bags of magic mushrooms every night. So like what I don't think.
No,
Um
no.
uh yeah, what are your kind of go-tos when things now are really tough?
So, great question. I think there's so much to be said for the unnoticed incremental pieces of work that we do in our life, like the yoga class you turn up for and you don't feel it, the salad you eat rather than the burger, like the kind of slow and steady little changes, like brushing your teeth, like your
Mm,
daily practice.
small right actions.
Sorry?
I like to call them small right actions.
Yeah, small right actions, right? Okay, so great, great phrase. Like my bank of small right actions is really big. So
Hmm.
I feel that gives me like a big mattress that when things are crap and they rent yard, something to my DNA and my lifestyle, like I get quite a lot of like moments, excuse my French, that and also I think it's practice of kind of not kind of going, well, like trying to not be in the present moment for very long and like seeing the bigger picture. Those small right actions really help. But the primary, because they help my body, right? Because as humans, like my soul has got it all and is fine, but my human experience is so much easier when I treat my body well in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like being aware of caffeine and sugar and sleep and exercise and water, all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
my biggest mindset shift is having faith. I was raised as an atheist. I had no framework to make sense of life. So I was living in this chaos. And whether you use the word God or you have a religion or you talk about the universe or you having faith in yourself
Yeah.
is that belief and knowledge that there is more happening than is seen and that at
Mm.
some point it will make sense.
Yeah.
Um, and that has been the biggest game changer. And my third thing is that I invest really heavily in amazing support. Uh, so I don't have family support. I'm not in a relationship at the moment. So I invest. And I think also, even if you do have that, it's really important to have somebody who's other. So I have a
Mm-hmm.
mentor, I have a coach, I have a PT. Um, and that is what's really changed the game for me, rather than doing it all on my own. Having people who
Yeah.
have already done it and are like nailing it and are aligned with my beliefs. Like I pray with my coach, stuff like that. Like
Mm.
that has really moved the needle.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, babe. Time for your
Thanks.
question. Was that a helpful answer?
Yeah, that was great. Ask me a
Okay,
question.
right. Um, when you I'm looking at the wrong questions. What are the sacrifices that you feel that you've had to make in order to live a life? Like, firstly, like what are the qualities in your life now that you love? And what do you feel, if anything, you've had to sacrifice in order to create the life you've got now?
Mm. Good
Which is,
question.
for people who don't know, filled with global extraordinary travel to amazing places in a divine relationship with a beloved, handsome, affluent man with a beautiful dog, in a beautiful home in a beautiful part of the world. Like, I think you're
Mm.
pretty well. Doing
Oh,
what you love, getting paid well for doing what you love, right?
I
As a
think yeah, I think the really for me now it's about contentment. I'm I realized many moons ago that I had lived most of my life up till when I was 25 or so plus, like deeply distraught, and I hadn't allowed myself to be content with what I had. And I think, you know, understanding that what I want doesn't necessarily align to what society is telling me that I should do, like have a family and get married and have children and buy a house and have a job that gives me a really good salary and a pension, all those things I never wanted to do. Like it wasn't, I just never felt that was, that it didn't switch me on. And so, in terms of sacrifices, I guess that sacrifices that I have made is what the main one probably being to not have children, and that's been a conscious choice. Um, I've never really felt that it's where I should be going in this lifetime, and I still receive criticism all the time from people. Do you not want to try? Do you not want to do? Like this kind of like, did you not want to be a mom? Is there something wrong with you? These kind of questions that still I get thrown at me, even though I'm kind of heading towards the middle of my 40s. and I and it kind of fascinates me that people sometimes have the balls to even ask these questions. Um, but yeah, the contentment really being that I have lived the last 10, 15 years the way that I've wanted to live it. And I, like you say, I've spent a lot of time traveling abroad, but also living abroad. And I went on a deep journey doing work with women in refugee camps in Asia for 4 years, which shifted my internal alignment on such a level that I came back here to the UK so much more resilient. It was like I knew that I was living then my truth, which to support other people and to help them on their path and to help them explore what they really want in life. And I think that contentment in what I am doing now, and also knowing that you can always start again. I think that has been such a big one for me. I used to always believe that, this is my only opportunity, my only chance, my only choice. But recognizing, as we do with a daily yoga practice, that, every day I can take another in breath, every day is a new day. And that potential that the new day offers, it comes over and over again, and that's what's so exciting. It's like, of course, not everything always works out, and not everything is how you want it to be, and there's a journey to go through on every level. But that understanding that it's okay to fail, and that failure can be your resilience. I think that would, yeah. So living a life of contentment is like really, really joyful.
Oh, and I want to go off piste a little bit and pick into that because I was so like we weren't in touch that much. When I heard you were working with women in these camps, I was like so inspired because that's really hardcore. Not many people do that kind of level of service work, and we're really aligned in the same similar mission to really, really want to help people be happier, more in their authenticity, expand their consciousness, heal. And when I heard that, I was really impressed, if I'm not sure it's the right word, but I was. And so I'm intrigued. What, how did you, I'm sure there were people when you said, okay, I'm going to leave the UK and go and live in Asia and leave my corporate job and go become a yoga teacher in a completely different culture. What were, how did you make that decision and not get swayed by people saying don't, if they were, or overcome your own fears? And the same for then when you took your work into, and I think you were sponsored by the UN to do that, or like how did that, how did you overcome any resistance internally or externally to do that?
Deep internal listening, really. I mean, the whole of that path was all about following my inner guidance. I kept having messages for years. I was having messages that I should be living in Asia. When I was communicating with my spirit guides, when I was talking to um, uh, certain people, and signs, just recognizing signs just showing up all the time in my life. And I had to take the step. It was terrifying, but I had to take the leap. And then every step on the path that I took, universe showed up for me and gave me another, signpost. It's like, it's over here, it's over here, it's over here. I mean, really kind of crazy, crazy things. Like I was in New York staying with a friend's friend. I was about to move to Burma to start this work, and he organized a dinner party, and he sat me next to this woman who was working at the UN in New York, who said to me, my best friend actually is running the British Council in Burma right now. I'll connect you. It was literally like that. And then she was like my in. She was my in Burma to then kind of take the next step. So when I arrived, she greeted me and she introduced me to so many people, and it was through her that I begun to be able to penetrate into um, the NGO world, where I had written this program, and I was able to then pitch it to them and sell it into them so that I could go into these centres in the camp to work with these women. So yeah, it was just, yeah, like I say, every step it was a matter of really deep listening and recognizing the signs that I was receiving around me. I mean, it sounds simple, but it was magic when you look back on it. It was really
Yeah.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I recognize that similar things of like, you can't, and this is why my work is about from head to heart, because the head will say strategy, plan, how are you going to make that happen? The head is in fear and wants to have certainty. And the heart, when we listen to it, is our navigation system of where our life's going to go. And it often doesn't make sense because I think God, the universe, wants us to deepen our relationship with it, move out of the ego and the conflicts of only working with what's seen, and reconnect to the fields that we're all part of. And when we do that, like the miraculous occurs. But it's not miraculous when you kind of understand the quantum physics of it. But like that's where our life journey starts to really quantum leap and leapfrog over the hurdles and obstacles about how are you going to do that. But we have to take the first step before we can see the ground.
Yeah, and there was no logic to it. Like, I was in my mid 30s. I had a really, a good kind of setup in London, and like people thought I was completely bonkers. But I went, and the rest is history.
Amazing. So I'm aware we've been talking for a while now. If don't I can't see any questions in the chat, but if anyone's been hovering and thinking, I want to know about this or I want to know about that, uh, plonk them in. If you have a specific example, we won't bring you on screen if you don't want to be. And if not, we're going to share a little bit about our retreat that I am so excited that
I
we're
know.
running. So,
I am also. I think the combinations of the work that we do, I think they align so beautifully, and I really hope that people will join us, because I think there's a massive shift that can be made if you take the leap.
so just so that we're clear, like Imogen teaches like next level yoga, and she has many different types of yoga under her belt, so she can really tailor it to what you are. And she works big with themes, so there's a lot of different elements. It's like a complete work of art, one of her classes, because like the music and the affirmations and the like every single part that you can think of and some extra bits have all been planned and brought together with such cohesion that it's a really holistic experience, whether you feel of yourself as a yogi or not. So um and as you can see from getting her vibe, and those of you who know her, like she brings so much to the table because of the life path she's on. And my work is really around the heart and tapping into that unlimited part of yourself, not allowing your past to dictate your future. The work I do with clients and the work I've done with myself with like, overcoming diagnosis and trauma and limitations and changing my life extraordinarily from everything from my relationship myself, which is the most important thing, but my finances, the way I work, life on my terms. And so we're collaborating with Your Courageous Heart Retreat, which is this 4-day journey to get you deeply into your heart. So courage is not just doing what we want, but doing the things that we're scared of that we want. Because if it was easy, we'd be doing it, right? And it's not courageous. So it's about powering yourself up just before we come to the equinox so that you end 2024, this huge year, so much moving, that you're having your own breakthrough, your own sense of self. And that might be like a deep level of nourishing or resting that you've not had, or it might be leaving the job that you've wanted to do or starting the business, like coming with a sense of what is going to be a courageous rest for you or a courageous shift for you. That is what we're cultivating um, over these 4 days. And do you want to share, Imogen, a little bit about the land and the venue?
Yeah, the land is a very sacred kind of space. It's known as Earth Barton, and we have, I forget how many acres now available to us. So many acres.
On and on. It's another lake, another stream, another river.
Yeah, we have the river. We have the, a beautiful kind of hill area. We've got it's vast. I mean, it's really really vast, and it will provide for us space to really delve into our true nature, because we will be able to separate ourselves from daily life. It's situated kind of on the border with Devon and Cornwall, so it's just over the border from uh, Devon, past Plymouth, um, down many winding roads, and the house itself is, I think, 14th century. Goes back many hundreds of years as well. So it's also been a place of worship. So there was nuns living there at one point. There was a chapel. So it's been holding people in this kind of sacredness for many hundreds of years, and you really get that boom vibe from it. I think when you arrive, Helen
It,
and I went down.
the extraordinary energy of it, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of the depth of the soil, like when there's been nothing else planted on it, like it feels like you're walking in Lord of the Rings. And
Mm,
because you kind of come up over this peninsula, it's on a peninsula, so there's just the house and the chapel on this peninsula. There's no other sort of towns or buildings. So everywhere you go, you're looking at land over water because it's surrounded by water, and we can be wild swimming and all sorts of things. Really working with the elements, and then this really the people who are custodians of the venue, like they've just done the rooms with such beauty, attention to detail, so it's a real sanctuary. And my highlight is there's this 13th century chapel that has the original paintings on the walls by hand. And it's been turned
mm,
into a yoga studio. So the pews have gone and it's all with candles all over the walls. It's stunning.
stunning. Yeah.
So it really will feel, in terms of rebirthing and letting go and renewal, our environment is everything. It's so difficult to make deep, significant change when you're in your habitual patterns in place. So I've always found extraordinary breakthroughs by going away to be with a new community to do that work, where you're not contorted or controlled by your normal life.
I think there's also an idea of being held in the by the earth there in this lineage that has existed there now for so many years. You know, so much of the work that we do, Helen, is about being held. I think as well, and I think the history of the land and the space will do that for us.
Right.
Um, yeah.
So I feel like we need a little drum roll, except I only have a gong roll.
A drum roll.
Summer seasonal offers launched. So what we're offering is £200 off if you bring a friend. So you can split that £100 each, or you can have £200. It's from the 5th to the 8th of September. So it's a Thursday to a Sunday retreat. And that will be falling just as we come towards the equinox, just as we're in that kind of back to school vibe, that collective energy of up leveling, of expanding, of becoming more than we were in the previous year. And it's a great way for me. I always find my year sort of really marked by the solstices. So it's that push
Mm.
to, like, who do I want to be when I get to that winter solstice? And it's really easy to get to, and it's in Cornwall, which I have a huge affinity to. So, but just on the border, so it's not an epic trek. I'll put the link in the chat, and if
I've just
you
popped it in.
brilliant. So if you go on there, you can get your bestie, put who you're coming with, whether you want to share a room or have different rooms, and then we will be able to apply the discount for you. You can choose which rooms you're interested in. There's a few different ones, and some are in the main house, some are in yurts, some are in beautiful little gypsy huts, shepherd's huts.
Shepherd's
So
house.
feel free to do that. Share it to friends who you feel would love to come, or if you want to
Mm.
come on your own, you're also really welcome to do that. And yeah, that's what we'd love to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited. And if anyone has any questions about it at all, you can reach out to Helen or me
Yeah,
through either of our sites or social media or whatever, and we can
yeah.
answer your questions.
And if you're watching the replay and you're just listening to this as a podcast, the website to head to is hearthealer.co.uk. And at hearthealer.co.uk, you can see my upcoming retreat, and you can book that way. And it's been an absolute pleasure to connect,
It
Imogen.
has. It has. Always a pleasure, my love. And will look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. And thank you to everybody who's in the chat, who's joined us live, and thank you to everybody catching the replay. Um, and we will send with this ways to connect to Imogen, to all her socials and her website and mine as well. So if you want to take this further, if it's not the retreat, if you want to do some one-to-one work with us or groups, that's also on offer. So very good.
Brilliant.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Goodbye. Bye bye bye.
Okay, just gonna Ness, I'm just removing you now, but thank you so much for coming. There we go. Oh, hang on.
Yay.